Picture this, it's the height of World War II, and an unseen enemy is causing chaos. The stage is set in the dark corners of the world, far removed from the battlefield's clamor. Here in the shadows, a different kind of war rages on. It's a war of wits, secrets and codes, where the unseen enemy isn't a soldier with a gun, but a cryptographer with a code. A code that could turn the tide of the war. During World War II, the role of espionage and intelligence operations was paramount. Intelligence wasn't just an accessory to the war effort, it was a vital weapon. A weapon that, when wielded correctly, could deliver crushing blows to the enemy without firing a single shot. And at the heart of this clandestine warfare was the codebreaker. These were the unsung heroes, the silent soldiers who fought not on the front lines, but behind closed doors. Their weapons not bullets, but numbers and letters. One of their most significant challenges and triumphs revolved around a machine, the Enigma machine, a device so intricate and sophisticated it was believed to be unbreakable. This machine was the backbone of the Nazi communication network, encrypting messages in a code so complex it seemed impenetrable. But where some saw an impenetrable fortress, the codebreakers saw a challenge. They toiled day and night, wrestling with the enigma, until finally they cracked it. The impossible made possible, the unbreakable broken. The information gleaned from these deciphered messages was invaluable, providing the Allies with the upper hand. Suddenly, the enemy's moves were no longer a mystery. The once unseen enemy now in plain sight. Yet despite their monumental contribution to the war effort, these codebreakers remained largely unknown. Their work so vital was shrouded in secrecy, their victories unsung, their stories untold. Unseen, unsung heroes, these codebreakers were instrumental in winning the war. But let's rewind a bit. How did we get here? In the aftermath of the Great War, the world was left reeling. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was intended to ensure peace. It held Germany responsible for the war and demanded hefty reparations. However, it inadvertently sowed the seeds of another conflict. The treaty's harsh terms crippled Germany economically and socially, leaving the nation in a state of resentment and humiliation. During this time of discontent, a charismatic figure rose to prominence: Adolf Hitler. Hitler and his National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party for short, capitalized on the public's anger towards the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler promised the disgruntled Germans a return to national glory and a reversal of the treaty's stipulations, and so the stage was set. In 1933, Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany. He quickly transformed the democratic Weimar Republic into a totalitarian state where he had absolute power. His regime began rearming Germany, directly violating the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The world watched warily, but did little to intervene. It wasn't until 1939 that the first domino fell. Germany, now a formidable military power, invaded Poland on the 1st of September. Hitler's blitzkrieg tactics, focusing on speed and surprise, overwhelmed the Polish defenses. The world was shocked. Britain and France, allies of Poland, had to make a decision. They had hoped to avoid another war, but Hitler's aggression left them with no choice. On the 3rd of September, they declared war on Germany. It was a monumental decision, one that would shape the course of the 20th century. Hitler's invasion of Poland marked the beginning of World War II. It was a war that would engulf the entire world, causing unprecedented destruction and loss of life. It was a war that would challenge the notions of human capacity for both cruelty and bravery. And just like that, the world was at war. The Eastern Front of World War II, a brutal and unforgiving battleground. Here, the might of the German forces clashed with the resilience of the Soviet Union in a battle of attrition that would last for 4 grueling years. In June of 1941, under a cloudless sky, Operation Barbarossa was unleashed. This was the German invasion of the Soviet Union, the largest military operation in human history in terms of manpower and area covered. Its objective was the swift conquest of the Western Soviet Union, a landmass stretching from the Baltics to Moscow. Despite initial success, the German forces were eventually slowed by the vastness of the land and the harsh Russian winter. Then came the siege of Leningrad, a tragic chapter in the annals of warfare. The city was encircled, cut off from the rest of the world. For a staggering 872 days, the city's inhabitants endured starvation, cold, and constant bombardment. Yet, despite the unimaginable hardships, Leningrad did not fall. Then there was the Battle of Stalingrad, a turning point not just for the Eastern Front, but for the entire war. Here, in the ruins of a city bearing Stalin's name, the Red Army and the Wehrmacht engaged in bitter, close-quarter combat. The city itself was reduced to rubble, but the Soviets held firm, refusing to let it fall. After 5 months of relentless fighting, the German Sixth Army was encircled and eventually forced to surrender. This marked the first major defeat of Hitler's armies and the beginning of a relentless Soviet advance that would not stop until it reached Berlin. The Eastern Front was a theater of extremes. It was marked by vast distances, brutal weather, and a level of ferocity seldom seen in warfare. It was a test of endurance and will, a game of numbers and resources, and in the end, despite his initial successes, it was here on the Eastern Front that Hitler met his match. The Eastern Front would prove to be Hitler's downfall. Meanwhile, halfway around the world, a different kind of war was being fought. The Pacific theater of World War II was a theater like no other, a vast expanse of water dotted with islands. It was here that the United States and its allies waged a bitter war against the Empire of Japan. The attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, marked the United States' entrance into the war. A surprise military strike by the Japanese against the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, resulted in a significant loss of life and dealt a severe blow to the American Pacific Fleet. In the wake of Pearl Harbor, the conflict rapidly intensified. The battles of Midway and Guadalcanal were pivotal moments in the Pacific War. The Battle of Midway in June of 1942 saw the United States Navy effectively halt Japanese expansion in the Pacific. Meanwhile, the Battle of Guadalcanal marked the first major offensive by Allied forces against the Empire of Japan. As the war dragged on, the Japanese became increasingly desperate. This desperation led to the deployment of kamikaze tactics, suicide attacks by military aviators from the Empire of Japan against Allied naval vessels. These tactics demonstrated the lengths to which the Japanese were willing to go to defend their homeland. The Pacific War reached its dramatic conclusion in August of 1945. The United States, in a bid to bring the war to an abrupt end, dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was immense, and the impact undeniable. Within days, Japan announced its surrender, marking the end of World War II. The Pacific theater was a war of attrition, fought across thousands of miles of ocean and countless islands. It was a war marked by extraordinary acts of bravery and horrific acts of violence. It was a war that changed the world in ways that are still felt today. The Pacific theater was a war of attrition, and it ended with a bang. In the aftermath of World War II, the world was forever changed. The echoes of gunfire fell silent, replaced by the hum of rebuilding and the whisper of political discourse. The ravages of war had left indelible scars, but from the ashes, new institutions and ideologies began to take shape. The establishment of the United Nations marked a significant milestone in the post-war landscape. Born out of the carnage and chaos of the conflict, this international organization aimed to foster global cooperation and prevent future wars. It symbolized a collective yearning for peace and unity in a world torn apart by war. Simultaneously, the seeds of another conflict were being sown. The end of World War II marked the beginning of the Cold War, a period of political and military tension between the Western Bloc, led by the United States, and the Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union. This ideological battle would shape global politics for the better part of the next half-century. Germany, once a formidable adversary, lay divided. The Berlin Wall, a tangible symbol of this division, stood as a stark reminder of the ideological chasm that had formed between East and West. Yet amidst the political maneuverings and territorial divisions, the world also bore witness to a monumental moment of justice and accountability, the Nuremberg trials. These trials saw top Nazi officials held accountable for their war crimes, marking a significant shift towards the enforcement of international laws and human rights. In the wake of such unprecedented horrors, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations in 1948. This historic document articulated the fundamental rights that every individual across the globe should enjoy, a testament to the lessons learned from the atrocities of war. World War II was a tragedy, but it also led to significant changes in global politics and human rights. The war's aftermath shaped the world we know today, a world striving to learn from its past and build a better future.